When someone minimizes or invalidates the survivor's experience, it can feel like reliving the abuse. It is troubling for anyone to experience emotional abuse. Narcissistic and emotional abuse is incredibly harmful and destructive. It's cumulative in its harm over time. But what about secondary abuse? Let's talk about it. I'm Dr. David Hawkins, Director of the Marriage Recovery Center and the Emotional Abuse Institute. And I want to talk about 4 ways that secondary abuse causes harm. But let's first talk about what secondary emotional abuse is. Secondary emotional abuse occurs when an individual who is struggling with emotional abuse goes to someone, presumably to get help, to get understanding, to get support, and instead they are dismissed, minimalized, marginalized, or invalidated. Now, you would think that this wouldn't occur, but it occurs sometimes intentionally. It can happen intentionally, or it can happen unintentionally by family, by friends, by other professionals who don't know about emotional abuse, or, catch this, who are unwilling to take the time to learn about emotional abuse. All right, so when a victim of emotional abuse and narcissistic abuse goes to a pastor, a friend, another professional, presumably needing help and presuming that they will receive help and support, and instead they're told that they are overreacting to what's going on, or they're asked a question like, why don't you leave? Why didn't you leave sooner? You must be playing a part in this. It's a two-way street after all, right? And of course, no, it's not always a two-way street. And there are many reasons why a victim of emotional abuse doesn't leave. I've done another video series on that you can look for. So the victim of emotional abuse reaches out for support, reaches out for care, and they are minimized. They are invalidated. They are dismissed. And this, now, I will move into what are the 4 ways that this is secondary abuse. Why is it and how is it so destructive? Number 1, it is re-traumatizing. It reinforces feelings of worthlessness or self-doubt instilled by the abuser. Secondly, it creates isolation and causes isolation. Survivors often turn to trusted people for support, for validation. They desperately need validation. And so they seek this validation, this understanding. And when it's not forthcoming, they are further isolated. They further feel alone. And this is horrific. Third, secondary abuse creates a barrier or roadblock to healing. When you think about emotional validation is critical to recovery, secondary emotional abuse can create a barrier by perpetuating their emotional pain, amplifying their emotional pain. So it creates a barrier, a hindrance to further healing. I cannot tell you how often a victim of emotional abuse comes to me and says, I've reached out to friends they don't understand. I've reached out to church members. They don't get it. But moreover, and more importantly, folks, I want you to hear this phrase, do they want to get it? It's one thing to not get it. It's another thing to not make the effort to read about emotional abuse, to understand emotional abuse. So someone may glibly say, oh, I get it. And they don't. And they haven't taken the time or the inclination or the interest to read about emotional abuse and to understand it. And fourth, 4 ways secondary abuse causes harm. It creates an erosion of self-worth. Just as direct emotional abuse undermines a person's sense of self, secondary abuse can deepen these wounds, reinforcing the survivor's belief that their emotions are invalid or unimportant. All right, what to do? Again, I hope you will challenge, if you are having this experience where you are experiencing secondary abuse, I want you to be very wise in determining where, when, and how you will share your story. It deserves to be held as a precious story. You deserve to be validated. You deserve to be in conversation with someone who understands all the intricacies of narcissistic and emotional abuse. So seek places where your emotions will be validated. Seek places where individual will listen without judgment. Seek to talk about your story in a place where someone will learn about emotional and narcissistic abuse, and they will treat you with the care with which you deserve to be treated. All right. I hope this has been helpful. Please click on the link to subscribe to additional videos. And as always, we're here for you. We want to help you. And love to hear your comments. Click on the link to get further help from our client care team who will help you determine a good path forward. Take care and God bless.